Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. Welcome to our, is it third colloquium? Third colloquium. So this is the third session of our colloquium organized by Dr. Johazrin. He is the coordinator for colloquium by our research group. Okay, may I know how many of you here are PhD students? Most of you are PhD students. From which program?
Same department.
Same department? Same faculty? Educational technology?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Did any one of you from different program? You from
chemistry education.
chemistry education. Okay, how about you? Vocational. All right. Okay. So most of you are PhD students. Okay, welcome to our curriculum. So today's session is about developing theoretical and conceptual framework. 22nd. Okay, sorry, my mistake. All right. Okay. All right. So I have one question here. Okay, this is the attendance. Later we will sign the attendance. Okay. Have you ever used menti.com Mentimeter? Okay, can you open your computer and go to www.menti.com? You can also use your handphone. Okay. So for those who are online, please go to Cikgu Laili, can you please help me to pass this code and detail to the online students? www.menti.com. Go to www.menti.com. And the code is 14050348. Okay, thank you, Cikgu Laili. Go to www.menti. Sudah masuk-masuk. Okay, please wait for a while. Okay, please answer these questions.
So this is the course.
Yes. Just leave it blank for option number 3, okay? Do we need to develop a theoretical and conceptual framework for our PhD research? Okay, it's okay. Just wait for a while. Just wait for the online students to answer these questions also. So this is basically for PhD research. Do you think it is necessary? So most of you think that it is necessary to have both framework, the theoretical and also the conceptual framework. Right, let me stop now. Okay, so if you think that it is necessary, then you need to be able to distinguish between these two. Do you think that you have a clear definition behind theoretical and also conceptual framework? What do you think? What do you think about that? What's the difference between these two, the theoretical and also the conceptual framework?
I think I'm more familiar with theoretical framework, which means that how you construct your different theories, how you use different theories for research parts. I'm not sure what conceptual framework is.
Okay, you know about theoretical framework, actually including the theories or models for your research. Okay, but you don't know about conceptual framework, or any of you? The rest, do you know about conceptual framework?
In conceptual framework, we assume the theory means we take variables and then develop relation among the variables and picture them in a theory form, in theoretical form, and we will test it.
True, that's very correct. Okay, so that's the difference between theoretical and also conceptual framework. Theoretical is the figure where you include all the theories and models that is relevant to your studies, okay, in a form of figure. It's just a figure, okay? But conceptual framework is where you represent the variables that involved in your research and represent the connection between the variables, okay? We have two different types of variables. What is it?
Variable, dependent and dependent.
Independent and also dependent variables. Do we need to include that variables in our conceptual framework?
We can include many variables and modulating variables, mediating variables,
Yes.
different kinds of variables. And in a mediating and moderating, there are also multiple kinds of variables. In a moderating, we can include categorical variables as well as other variables like
Okay, I got your point. Okay, besides independent and dependent variables, if you have moderating variables, you can also include in your conceptual framework. So that is the difference. Okay, as you can see here, a theoretical framework, it consists of existing theory or model that is used for your study. Can you create your own theory? Can you create your own theory?
No.
That's why I stated that use the existing theory. Okay, but it must be relevant to your study. Let's say that you want to assess students' social interactivity in classroom. What type of learning theory that you think most suitable to be used? Social interaction. You want to explore social interactions among your students. Albert Bandura theory. You can also use social constructivism theory.
Activity purpose, we can also use John Day.
Yes, anything that is related, anything that you feel that, okay, this can be used in my research. But can you use behaviorism theory?
No.
No, it's not suitable to be used for social interaction. Yes, okay. So use existing theory and model that is used for your study must be relevant. Okay. The theoretical framework must demonstrate an understanding of theories that are relevant to the topic of your research. All of you here are from the School of Education. So you should know learning theories in our field of study. We have behaviorism, we have cognitive, we have constructivism, we have a lot. Yes. So you must be the master of your research. So you should know, you must evaluate, you must compare this theory, and you also must read a lot of previous work to see whether this theory fits in your study or not. You make comparison. Okay, so you need to be critical in terms of that. Okay, all right, so next. So why do we need a theoretical framework? Why do we need to have theoretical framework? For PhD research, you must have theoretical framework. So which one comes first, the theoretical part or the conceptual part in the thesis? The theoretical part. Okay, after research questions, need to elaborate about theoretical framework. So the purpose is to show the theories that support your research and to show that your work, your research is grounded by established ideas. That's the point, okay? So we move on to the strategies to develop a theoretical framework, okay? These are the 6 strategies to develop a theoretical framework. First is to examine the key concept of your research, the scope of your research. Second is to brainstorm about what you consider to be the key variables in your research. And of course, to get the key variables in your research, you need to review related literature. Okay, you need to read a lot of things. And then list the constructs and also the variables. We have dependent, we have independent, maybe some of you have mediating variables. Okay? And then next is to review key social science theories. And the last one is discuss the assumptions or propositions of the theories. Okay, let's move on one by one. Okay, examine the key concept of your research. This is the first part. Let's go back to your first part of doing your thesis. What is the first phase, the first part of conducting your research? Let's go back to where you started. What is the first thing that you do as a researcher?
Studying the background.
Studying the background, okay. Any other points?
Find the research questions.
Find the
Research questions.
Find the research questions.
Introduction, then research question.
Okay, when you write the introductions, what are the first things in your mind?
Find the gap. Find the gap.
Find the gap, finding the problems, find the issues of your research. There's no use to conduct a research without knowing what the problems are.
Objective.
Yeah, and then later on it will go to objective questions and so on. Yeah. So let's go back, examine the key concept of your research, finding the problems of your research. Yeah. Your problems of research. Okay, clearly define the key concept from problem statement and also research questions, including finding the gap. Right? So for PhD students, you need to find the gap of the study. Do you understand? Do you know what is the gap of the study? What the gap means?
Your researchers did not target that issue, and you want to try to solve the issue.
Yes, the novelty, the originality of your work. Right? Okay, second part is brainstorm about what you consider to be the key variables in your research. Okay, once you are clear about your problems and issue, answer this type of questions. What factors, independent variables that contribute to the presumed effect, the dependent variables? So these are the things that you need to, brainstorm once you get your research problem statement and also research issues. Okay. The third part is to review related literature. Of course, if we want to make it clear about our independent variables and also dependent variables, we need to read a lot. There's no shortcut in PhD study. You need to read, and read. Okay, so read related literature. What does it mean, related literature? Related to your study. Okay?
Related to your variables of the study.
Yes. Make a comparison. What are the variables that they use? Do you think that this study fit in my study as well? Okay. So find how scholars have addressed your research problems. Okay. Identify how previous research addressed the problems. So you make comparison, you evaluate. Not just make comparison, but you evaluate. And think whether this previous research can help me in my study as well. Does it fit with my research scope? Is it fit? Then can I use the same thing, the same model that they use? Okay, so think about that. Okay. Part one, list the constructs and also variables. Once you think that, okay, this study is very much related to my study, and I feel that, okay, I think that I want to use the construct or variables that they use, and maybe I want to combine it with another model. Okay, and then, yeah, list the construct and variables that might be relevant to your study, and group these variables into independent and also dependent categories or dependent variables. So up to this point, you should able to differentiate between independent and also dependent variables. What are the differences between dependent and independent variables? Just a random questions. Are you in your first semester of PhD? How many of you are seniors here? Or present the proposal? What's the difference? The independent variables and also the dependent variables. Just a short answer.
When the change in something happens to the change other thing, it is independent variable, and the change that happens is dependent variable.
I'm not quite clear about that. Anything that is changing, it is
Independent variable.
changing. The one that is
Changing.
changed. What? The one that always change. Dependent or independent?
Independent.
The one that is changed. Are you sure?
No. The one is changed is called variable.
Yeah, but dependent or independent?
The one is changed is dependent variable.
Okay, the one that is changing is the dependent variable. The one that caused the changes is the independent variable. Okay, let's say I give you an example. Okay, you want to study the effectiveness of problem-based learning towards students' higher order thinking skill. So problem-based learning is independent or dependent?
Independent variable.
Problem-based learning, the intervention is the independent variable. The effect, the outcome, higher order thinking skill is the dependent variable. Okay? You know the difference?
The skills are always transforming, so they will always be categorized as dependent variables.
Yeah.
And the processes that help those skills to transform are dependent variables.
It's independent. The dependent is the
Independent.
outcome. Yeah. Okay. The input, the process is the independent. The outcome is the dependent. Okay. Please jot that in your notes. Okay. So after that, after you are clear about your independent and also dependent variable, then you can review the key social science theories. Okay, evaluate what are the theories, learning theories that they use, and then find if you can find any similarities or compare with your study. If you think that okay, maybe this particular researcher used social constructivism learning theory, but you are using problem-based learning. Do you think that the ground or the root of problem-based learning is based on social constructivism learning theory? Do you feel so? Yes? Okay. If you feel so, then make comparison with other research as well. Did they use social constructivism learning theory as the base for problem-based learning? So you make comparison, you evaluate yourself. Okay, if you feel that it fits your study, then you can use the social constructivism learning theory as the ground, the the root for your intervention, the problem-based learning. Okay. So evaluate, make comparison, and selecting relevant theories that underpinning your study. Can we have more than one theory in our theoretical framework? Yeah, of course. Of course. Okay, not necessarily only one theory. You can have more. Okay?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Does it depend upon the factors that according to our research objectives, what we are catering to, the time span, the target audience, and I think these are the factors that affect how many variables are taking into account and theories that affect it?
It's not really depend on that. It depends on the scope of your research. It depends on the variables of your research, not on the number of samples. It's not depending on that.
The number of samples, what I meant to say is that sometimes you are conducting a research over a period of time, over the years. Sometimes you are conducting a research over the particular sample, what we're calling a
No. It does not affect. Yes. That is research design. That is the methodology part. It's not really related to the theoretical part. The theoretical part really related with the construct and variables of your research. Okay? Please bear in mind.
The
Relationship among the variables. Later on, I will show you a few examples of theoretical and conceptual framework. Okay? Just to give you an overview what it looks like. Because if we search on the internet, we can't really find the figure of, okay, this is a template for theoretical framework. We can't find one. This is a template for conceptual framework. No, there is no exact template for this framework. There is no clear guideline on how to develop framework. As long as it is logic and structured, it can be your framework and relevant to your study, obviously. Okay, so final phase is to justify the selected theories that you had chosen. This is where you need to describe your learning theories in one particular subtopic in your thesis. Okay, so this is the tips. Okay, since there is no clear guideline, there is no rules in writing your theoretical or conceptual framework. Just make sure your theoretical framework provides a clear and logical structure for your research. Okay? This is an example of theoretical framework taken from my PhD study. Okay, I don't want to use anybody else. Okay, so this is the study where I want to investigate instructors' scaffolding. Scaffolding is guidance to the students. So the scaffolding here, scaffolding is guidance, education. So the root or theories that is related to scaffolding is social development theory by Lev Vygotsky. So this is how you put your framework into logical manner. As long as you understand your variables, then you put what are the theories that is involved there. Okay, and then metacognitions. Who are the root or who are the pioneer of metacognitions? Metacognitions was coined by John Flavel, so put his name there. Okay, so after this framework, you need to discuss, you need to elaborate, you need to describe all the theories, models that involved in your research. So this is how you do it. Okay, the scaffolding is from the instructor, and then I also integrate it with a project-based learning. This is the learning strategy that I infuse in my research. So I put it there. So who are the philosophers behind project-based learning? So I found that it is from John Dewey, from the theory of constructivism. Okay? And then this is the criteria of project-based learning that I use in my research by John Lammer. I put it there. And finally, I want to investigate the online interactions among the students. Okay? We can put Bandura, but since I use computer-based learning environment, and my evaluator, my review said that it's not suitable to put Albert Bandura there, because Albert Bandura is physical interactions, the face-to-face interactions, not for online medium. Okay, so I just put online interactions, the types of online interactions, right? Okay. So this is how you put your variables in a logical manner, put it in a sweet form of theoretical framework. So this is your theoretical framework. Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Why does the word is the main title is
This is the main issue that I want to cover, the scaffolding part.
yeah.
The layout, what do you mean by layout?
Yeah, the one in the above three.
The above three, okay.
So we have the big one. So this is the second section. I mean, you need
Not necessarily it looks like this. This is how I put it in my theoretical framework. I want to distinguish this part with that part. That part is the scaffolding by the instructor. This one is the learning activities provided by the researcher.
like, and I put it
As long as it is logical, then you can do that. As long as you can explain in the description.
the layout doesn't
The layout doesn't mean anything, but you need to explain in the description part what are you trying to focus first. In this time, I want to focus on the scaffolding part first. I want to distinguish two parts between the scaffolding and also the auto-correction. Yeah.
but the meta is set the whole thing. The second point is
Mm.
we need to like kind of
These are the variables for the technology scaffolding. So put the variables inside this framework too.
so we can do our variable.
Yes. Mm.
So the others will be like, so the others will is that the output of the building.
You must describe it in the section part, subtopics part of theoretical framework. Okay. Right. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Okay. This produced by another PhD student. Okay. So he wants to integrate PBL, problem-based learning, online learning model, to investigate students, to assess students' programming skills and also problem-solving ability. I think it is very straightforward. The upper part is the independent variables. The lower part is the dependent variables. Okay. So the independent, the intervention is based on PBL online learning model. Okay. If you are using problem-based learning, and the root theory for problem-based learning is social constructivist learning theory by Levikovsky. So put the theory like this theory. If you didn't put any theory, then you cannot say it as theoretical framework. And put the variable inside the problem-based online learning model by Peter Albion. Okay. On the lower part is the dependent variable. Okay. He wants to assess students' programming skills and also problem-solving ability. Again, put all the variables.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah.
So we are listing the variable here in the chat that the variable needs to be conceptual.
Yeah, it's just that the difference between theoretical and conceptual is in theoretical framework, there is a theoretical part. But in conceptual framework is the relationship between the variables.
So for this particular research, there will be another conceptual framework.
Yeah, there will be another conceptual framework.
The researcher will again.
Yeah. The difference is just they have the theory.
The theoretical framework is necessary for analyzing the hypothesis because it provides the base.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't decide.
Yeah, true. Okay. All right. So can we move on to the next topic, which is the conceptual framework. So here comes the conceptual framework. Again, a conceptual framework is again a figure, a diagram depicting the relationship between various variables. This is where it shows you the connection between the variables you have in your study. Okay. Okay, the variables can be in the form of independent, independent, or if you have mediating variables, you need to list out here. It helps you to visualize your research variables better. Okay, let's have a look at this example. Okay, so let's have a guess here. Which one is the independent and which one is the dependent variable? Do we have any mediating variables here?
I think the square that has the most words is independent variable, and the square that has only one word is mediating variable, and the round one is the dependent variable.
And the round one is independent. Okay, look at the arrow.
Sign.
Look at the arrow sign.
Pointed out as dependent variable.
Sorry?
Dependent variables. The arrow pointed.
The arrow point is pointing to the dependent variable. So this one is the dependent variables. These are the constructs of the dependent variable. The digital and media literacy. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 constructs altogether. How about this one?
Formative constructs.
Yeah, because it is the factors contributing to digital and media literacy. So from here, we can see the relationship between the differences of the variables involved in the study. Okay?
Which means it's direct relationship, doesn't have no trace.
Yeah, direct relationship. Okay, how about this? Which one is dependent and also independent variable? Which one? We have learning management system.
Yes.
The inquiry-based learning pedagogical method, inquiry-based learning principles.
Cognitive retention is dependent.
Okay,
So I think
we have 3: motivation, engagement, and retention.
yes.
That three there, dependent variable.
These 3 are the dependent variables. The bottom part is the dependent variable. And the upper part is the intervention, the independent variable. So from here, it is much clearer where you can see the principles of the inquiry-based learning produced by Joseph Spock that is used in this research. Yes.
Requirements are there in research objective. Can we put our objective inside?
Okay, there are many school of thoughts. As an academician, as a scholar, we need to embrace different school of thought. Some say that, oh, it is unnecessary to put research objective in the conceptual framework. But some researchers think that, okay, there's no wrong to put research objective there as long as you get the picture of how this study works from research objective number 1 to research objective number 3. Right? We have 3 research objectives. Okay?
So this one is considered conceptual.
Yes, this one is conceptual.
Not theoretical.
No, there's no theories here. It's principle by the Joseph Schwab, inquiry-based learning. Okay, how about this? We have customer satisfaction in internet shopping. We have information quality, system quality, and also service quality. Which one is independent and which one is dependent? Look at the arrow. Look at the arrow. Which one is the outcome?
Dependent. Satisfaction.
Customer satisfaction in internet shopping is the outcome. So this one is the dependent. Look at the arrow. The arrow that points out to certain figure, that is the dependent. How about this three? The service quality, system quality, and information quality. IV, the independent variable. So how many constructs are there for information quality, system, and also service quality? There are about 4 for information, 4 for system, and 3 for service quality. Okay? Okay, how about this again? This is for you to exercise your understanding. Revenue is independent variable. Facebook marketing independent, sales appearance is independent.
Why this does not have moderator?
Sorry?
Why does not have moderator?
Because this business doesn't have moderating variables. How about if you have moderating variables? You want to know the effect between motivation and performance, but you have moderating variables. Maybe in the middle, you have the student's IQ test, for example, that can be moderating variable. So it should be in the future. So it should be in between.
You see the Facebook marketing.
This is the one that I take from the internet.
What
Facebook
I'm
marketing,
saying
sales
that,
appearance.
since the Facebook marketing is not going directly to revenue, definitely there must be a moderation variable.
Yeah, maybe.
So that means they are doing the Facebook through the internet. Internet should be here as a moderation variable.
Yeah, maybe. It's logic. But this one is just the example that I found.
They say that this school they are not using moderation variable in themselves.
Sorry?
They say it's not allowed to apply moderation variable.
It's allowed. Who said that it's not allowed? It's allowed. Okay. Yeah, question?
Sorry to ask a question. You're saying that we follow the arrow, but then to the left side, there's no arrow, there's only line. So can we go like that?
Okay, that's another point there, whether we want to test the relationship between the variables. So in your figure, in your framework, so you should always, okay, that's a good question. Means that you are very critical in terms of that. So make sure that if you put line, make sure it is, it has meaning behind it. To show that, oh, maybe they want to test the relationship between these two variables, we don't know.
So the line without arrow tests
Yeah,
meant that they have
yeah, true.
relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So please be careful. That's a very good question. Okay. Please be careful when you draw a framework. Make sure your lines represent what you meant to do. If you want to test the relationship, so make sure you have the interconnected line between the variables. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions regarding this? I think this is just few examples of theoretical and conceptual framework, just to give you an overview what's the difference between theoretical and also the conceptual framework. Just to let you know that there is a difference between these two frameworks, and theoretical framework is very, very important for you to be included in your research. So please write theoretical framework part first and then move on to the Conceptual part. Okay. Some,
The theory need to answer the set of this.
sorry?
You need to understand with the set of this.
Yeah. Anything that you do, you must underpin with the learning theories. Yeah.
So one more question. So we need to have theoretical framework, and then we also need to have conceptual framework.
Yeah.
So these two parts are they linked together?
Sorry? Link together?
I mean, is the conceptual framework must be direct complements of the theoretical?
Yeah, of course.
Or they
It must be related with your scope of your research. But different subtopic. Okay?
So the layout can be different, or it can be the same.
Yeah. As long as in theoretical framework you point out the theories that you used for your research. The layout can be the same, but in theoretical framework, list out the theories or the model that you use for your research. In conceptual framework, it's more to provide the relationship between the variables, to visualize the relationship between variables that you had in your study. Okay?
Can I answer this also like that we have ingredients to work with something and then we prepare with those ingredients something output that we want to have a flavor like
Mm.
more easier.
Yeah,
The
true.
conceptual is something that what we want to propose and
Yeah.
the existing and relevant material that we-
Yeah, true. Sometimes I found conceptual framework like this. Sometimes, okay? They have the input, process, and also output. Okay, the IPO model. Have you read about this somewhere? I found this in, not my students, in other students' thesis, okay? This is the conceptual framework. But it represents these three phases. They call it input, process, and also output. Okay, you guess which part that the dependent variable should be placed? How about first we go to the independent part. Which phase that we want? Input and also process. So this one is IV, the dependent, and the output is the dependent variables. But is it suitable to be used if we have moderating variables? Do you think that it's suitable to be used to represent this way? Is it logic to write this way if you have moderating variables? Do you think it's logic? It's logic. Okay?
Moderating is logical, but it is not.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay. The logic here is that where you represent the input and process and you have the output, the DV can be more than one, right? Okay, so for example, last time I did show you about the online problem-based learning, online PBL, right? To test students' programming skill, we have two, right? Remember the programming skill? And also another dependent variables from our example. Higher order thinking skill. Higher order thinking skill. So this is the IV or DB? The online problem-based learning. IV. The intervention. This one is the DV. Right? Okay, so where to put the DV? In the output. Where to put the IV? The online problem-based learning. Inside this two. But what makes it different between input and also process? Okay, maybe in the input part, you are using online problem-based learning. You have online problem-based learning tasks, right? Okay, maybe in this part, online OPBL task. So list out the tasks that you have. Okay, maybe you have 4 tasks. Task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4. It's still an intervention, but in the input phase is where you list out all the tasks that you have. The problem-based learning tasks that you have, that you will impose to your students. So what happened in the process phase? It's still online PBL. Maybe in the process is where you put the platform for the intervention to happen. Okay, like for example, you want to have Facebook group page. Maybe you have the guidelines of online PBL by Peter Albion. Guideline of conducting or principles of online PBL. So the dependent variables is obviously the programming skill and also the higher order thinking skill. Okay, of course you must have this. The input is the task provided by the instructor. The process is the interventions that happens, okay? And the output is the dependent variable, the outcome of your research. Can you see the relation between these three, between the independent and dependent? Okay? So this is how they do it. There's no rules, no template, but as long as it is in logical structure that gives the reviewer or the reader's understanding of variables included in your study, then I believe you can produce a good theoretical and conceptual framework. Okay? Do you understand up to this point? Sorry? Understand? Okay. Any question? No questions. It's clear. How about those in the online meeting? Can you see my writing? No? No, it's okay. I will share with you guys the slides after this. It's okay. Okay? We cannot see the board. So sad. It's okay. Can you hear me? Because we can see the board. Okay, thank you, Prof. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think it's almost 3:30. Can I share with you the attendance link? Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. Apa nampak kat depan ni? Cici dulu. Ya, gila. Say. Banyak sangat buka. Okay.
It's not fun.